next-generation platelet collection. The blood platelet separation market is currently a $2 billion annual market and has the potential to be much bigger. It's currently limited by slow machines and lengthy collection times. These long procedures can range anywhere from about 2 to 2.5 hours, and it's a major deterrent to potential donors. This results in a less than maximized revenue for these platelet collection centers. The HemoFlux PCS1 is projected to reduce donation times by 40%, thereby reducing the major barrier to donation, and we think that it'll increase revenue for platelet collection centers by $12 million annually. So this is just a typical platelet collection center. You typically have one nurse in charge of multiple machines. She's in charge of setting up the machines and making sure that each patient is comfortable through this lengthy procedure. In the bottom right, you have a unit of collected platelets. This unit sells for about $1,500 to hospitals, and then they use it in transfusions. You can see on the left, the platelet collection machine. There's about a 90% profit margin on these platelet units because the only part of the machine that they need to replace in between each use is the disposable kit. It's the plastic tubing inside the machine that actually comes in contact with blood. So platelets are only good for 5 to 7 days outside the body, and there's a constant demand for these platelets. This demand is also rapidly increasing. It's projected to grow by 1.8% through the year 2019, and this is due to an aging population and enhancements in cancer therapies, which call for platelet transfusions. The HemoFlux PCS1 is going to collect at a faster rate than the competitors, as well as with increased platelet quality. As one of our customers said during our interview with them, that if we can decrease platelet collection times by 60 minutes, they can increase their revenues by 50%.
So by decreasing the collection times by 60 minutes, we believe we can increase the daily income per machine by $4,500. Now for a platelet collection center which has up to 10 machines, this results in about $12 million per year of increased revenue from HemoFlux. And for a local example, like the San Diego Blood Bank, we believe we can increase their revenue over all of their platelet collection centers by about $72 million a year. Here on your left is an example of an existing platelet collection machine. You can see it has an interface and a lot of tubing and bags, but it uses centrifuge type technology to separate out the platelets from a donor. And this technology has been roughly the same for the past 20 years. So we plan to partner with one of these large platelet companies and remove their centrifuge and install the HemoFlux PCS1 device. So this will involve them recalling some of their existing devices and then replacing just the centrifuge portion and implanting our PCS1 hardware. From there, we'll sell them one-time use disposable kits. Every single donor that comes in to donate platelets needs a new, sterile, one-time use disposable kit. So in this manner, we'll set up a razor blade type model where we're selling them initially just the hardware for the HemoFlux PCS1 and then disposable kits priced at around $200 for each donor that comes in to give a platelet unit. And we believe HemoFlux will generate a kit revenue of about $400,000 per machine annually with this model. The total available market for disposable kits last year was $535 million in revenues. We believe our serviceable available market is going to be the North American market, which was $184 million. And in 5 years, when we capture 10% of the market, that'll be $18.4 million in revenue for HemoFlux. Our go-to-market plan, we have 2 separate plans. The first of which is to partner with an existing large platelet collection company. This will give us instant access to their customer base, their FDA experience, and it'll also allow us to set up a licensing agreement and use their existing platelet collection machines and really just replace the centrifuge technology with our new HemoFlux PCS1 technology. The second option is to go to a different large biomedical device company that has some experience in the consumables market and is really willing to take on this HemoFlux technology and dominate the market. And hopefully they'll have FDA approval experience as well as consumable production experience for medical devices. 3 main competitors can be seen along the top. They are the Amicus from Fenwal, Comtech from Fresenius County, and the LRS from Spectra. You can see that the PCS1 from HemoFlux basically reduces the collection time by half. We also have much higher percent viable platelets than the standard platelet collection machines on the market because of their centrifuge type technology. We do believe our disposable kits are going to be a little bit more expensive, but the bottom line is we're going to be able to increase the collection center revenues by increasing each machine's revenue to $13,500 per machine per day as compared to the next leading competitor, which is roughly $9,000.
So the HemoFlux PCS1 represents a complete paradigm shift over any of the existing companies. They're all based on this old and frankly outdated collection technology, while the HemoFlux PCS1 is based on a proprietary microfluidic design built by James and I. We've had our design verified by a UCSD professor, and we've successfully built and tested a proof of concept device, and we're currently developing a larger prototype. We also have a patent application under development, and on the right is just a few pictures of us fabricating in the Nano 3 clean room. So the team, as I mentioned before, James Madsen, who's a graduating student in the bioengineering department. He has 2 years of experience working for these platelet separation companies. My name is Ron Ng, and then I have previous experience working with microfluidics. We also plan to add a business and licensing advisor and FDA trials advisor in the near future. So this is just a couple of our future milestones. By the end of the summer, we hope to have a complete prototype, at which point we'll be looking for an investment of $500,000, as well as to partner with an existing company in order to create a full-scale device. We estimate that that will take another year, and we hope to have a full-scale device done by the end of next summer. At that point, we'll be looking for a $10 million investment in order to take our device through FDA clinical trials.
So overall, HemoFlux is a disruptive next-generation platelet separation technology company. We believe we can increase platelet collection centers' revenues by up to $12 million a year. And this will be done by decreasing their collection time, increasing the platelets collected per blood volume, and also increasing the platelet quality. And HemoFlux will utilize a razor blade type technology, or revenue model, in which we sell the HemoFlux hardware one time, and then from there we sell them individual, sterile, single-use disposable kits that they'll need for each donation within the collection center. And as one of our customers said, the demand for platelets is incredible.
So, cool question about the legacy companies. What's the market share between those 3?
Market share is roughly, it's 30, 40.
It's all
It's split regionally too.
It's-
Mostly
yeah,
San Diego, I believe is on Trima, and then mostly Mid-East, and mostly more than
that. And by having twice as many platelets, or viable platelets, does that mean you can get, two bags worth of platelets from each user? Is there something where you can get more output?
So currently the units are just described by the total amount of platelets within the bags, not actually their viability. So they're not looking at the activation of the platelets, where activation is a bad thing. But in our case, if we're able to show that we have less platelet activation, then we may actually be able to sell the platelet product at even a further premium than what's currently on the market. But that's not taken into account.
It could be a problem, right? Because you get too much clotting if you don't. That would have to be
Right, but then
for,
you
right?
can just dilute the
Yeah,
product.
you have to figure something out, right?
Thanks, and again, appreciate the time and the presentation. So, you mentioned that there's a number of existing units out there that you would have to replace those platelets and put your own kits in them. Can you talk about that process a little bit and any hesitation that you may have with the existing owners of those units? Are they doing that themselves, or are you doing it? What does that do to the machine itself? Concerns like that.
So my experience in the blood separation industry is that they're taking their centrifuge technology and just reiterating it time after time to create a new version. So they're not making drastic steps in the technology. We believe that, or I believe that through my experience, the machine is very modular, so we just take out the centrifuge portion of the machine, utilize the user interface, the pumps, and the tubing locations, and just insert our HemoFlux PCS1. So, and by utilizing some of my previous contacts, once we get further along in the proof of concept, can be pretty valuable.
Have you had any conversations with them about doing something like that?
No, I'm not, because our patents have not been.
And then would the next step be that you yourselves are actually creating this in new units that are sold from their original component?
So the step would be to have our partnering companies recall their devices and then fit our HemoFlux PCS1 hardware and then send them back out. And we're not developing a whole new collection machine, but basically just replacing the centrifuge component of the device.
What's the life cycle of those machines?
I think they're around 15 years something. But they have annual service contracts.
So on the process, do you know what the cost to the company would be to retrofit a device? How much are you going to have to pay? And then what sort of validation work would have to be done on the device after the retrofit is completed?
Yeah, so we'll have to partner with one of the larger companies and work with them. I don't know how much the projected cost will be to have them recall and replace, but if we can hit the numbers we're looking for, the potential for basically market domination is huge. And then the second question was validation. And then from a validation standpoint, we're going to have to go through a whole new set of clinical trials. This isn't going to be a 510K because it's new technology. It's not just a change off the standard centrifuge.
I meant the validation of each instrument once the retrofit is completed.
Yeah, so there'll have to be in-house testing that the medical device company does. They'll have to run blood samples and test to make sure it's collecting platelets correctly, which is done currently on all the devices I've seen.
How does it work?
Yes, so we don't have a patent application quite yet, or sorry, we don't have a patent quite yet, so we don't want to discuss it in such a public forum. But if you want to discuss it further, we'd be happy to discuss it further. But we do have a working proof of concept, and we run our devices through by using it.
And who's the inventor?
Us.
So you own all the rights, no former employer, university, or anybody else?
Correct, that's correct.
Okay.
So you kind of had three competitors up there, I think. And do those three basically make up the installed base of that equipment out there in the market right now?
Yes.
And the idea is you're going to go to one of those three and say, we'll swap out the guts of your tool because our guts work better. Are the three like enough where your quote-unquote kit will fit in any of the three? Is there one that's designed such that it's a killer? Well, we're not going to go with that one, that's too hard, we're going to lean on these two? Or give me a feeling for what that looks like. It sounds hard.
So if you remember the picture of the platelet collection device that we showed previously where the centrifuge was removed, that's just one of the examples. But for all three devices, basically the same setup where you have the user interface on the top, the pumps, and then the centrifuge is in the middle, that's portion, modular component. So
Okay, so how much is a whole tool?
they typically, these platelet collection companies, typically they would sell the machine for the total machine for around $100,000. We don't believe that our HemoFlux device will be that expensive, but it will just become a component of their machine. But also they have, depending on who they're selling it to and depending on how many machines they're purchasing, sometimes these large platelet collection companies actually give away the collection machine because the revenue is mostly generated from the single-use sterile disposable kits.
Okay, this last question sounds like a boring one, but it's actually kind of key. What is the accounting treatment on one of those machines installed in a lab or a clinic somewhere? Is it depreciated, and what's the depreciation schedule? Sorry for sounding kind of like a gotcha question, but if you're going to one of these places and say, hi, I want to swap out your whole fleet of tools, one of the places they're going to point to is the accountant's office and say, well, that doesn't look good, or